Okay, so we have solved multi-step equations, and now we're going to do what we've been doing with multi-step equations, but we're going to put a variable on both sides of the equal sign. So you'll notice here's the equal sign. We've got a variable on the left, and we've got a variable on the right. When that happens, the equal sign is sort of like a barrier. We cannot combine like terms when there's an equal sign in between them. We have to use inverse operations to get one of the variables over to the other variable. And in general, that means as a general rule, but there are exceptions, okay? And we'll talk about those as they come up. But when there's a variable on both sides of the equal sign, you want to move using inverse operations the smallest variable. Okay, so here's sort of what you need to do. It's not a bad idea if you want to draw a line through that equal sign so that you can keep the left and the right side of the equation separate. And I look here, I have a minus 3m and a positive 5m. Well, negative 3 is smaller than positive 5, so I'm going to move, using inverse operations, the negative 3. Since it is minus 3m, I'm going to add 3m to both sides. I do that because there's an equal sign between the two variables. I cannot combine them. So the 24 comes down, negative 3m plus 3m becomes 0, and 5m plus 3m is 8m. Now I've got my variables on one side, my numbers on the other. This is a one-step equation. I'm going to divide both sides by 8, and m is 3. All right, next one. If you find it helpful, draw a line through that equal sign so that you can look more clearly at the left side and the right side. I have a 1c, right, and 1c on the left, a 4c on the right. 1 is less than 4. It's a positive 1, so the inverse operation would be to subtract 1c from both sides. The 20 comes down, c minus c is 0. 4c minus 1c is 3c, and then I bring down the minus 7. Now it's just a two-step equation. I'm going to add 7 to both sides, divide both sides by 3, and c is 9. Remember, at any time, since this is a solution, you can take this number, plug it back in up here, it should make it true. Okay, you try these two, pause the video, try them on your own, then turn the video back on and check your work. All right, so I got x equals negative 7 for the first one and k equals negative 8 for the second one. You could do these in a way different than I did and still get the right answer. The reason that in general we move the smallest variable is it allows us to end up most of the time with a positive variable up here, and we'll just make fewer mistakes. If you happen to move the larger one, it's okay. You'll just have an extra negative to deal with, but if you're careful, you shouldn't have any problems with it. Okay, so here are the steps for solving any equation. This will be, you will look anytime and do this every equation you see. The first thing you want to do is completely simplify both sides. Now, we've already gone over the steps to simplify an expression. You want to distribute, and you want to combine like terms. You want to get the left and the right as simple as they can get before you move anything. If you do that, it will make your life better, I promise. So I look over here, I'm going to draw my line through the equal sign. I look at the left side of the equal sign. I don't have any distributive property, but I do have like terms. I've got 10b minus 3b, that's 7b, minus 25 equals, I look at the right side, I don't have distributive property, I don't have like terms, so I'm just going to copy 4b minus 1. Then, after that, after they're both completely simplified, so look at the left, nothing else I can do on the left, nothing else I can do on the right. The next step is going to be to move that smallest variable. And remember, that's in general. Sometimes you'll need to move that larger variable, and we'll talk about that when that shows up. So I've got a 7b and a positive 4b. 4b is smaller, so I'm going to subtract 4b from both sides. 7b minus 4b is 3b. Bring down the negative 25. 4b minus 4b is 0, and that's a negative 1. Be careful, you'll be likely to lose that minus sign there. Then it's just at that point, you're going to solve what's either going to be a 1 or 2-step equation. Most of the time it'll be a 2-step equation. Occasionally it'll be a 1-step equation. So 3b minus 25, I'm going to add 25 to both sides. I get 3b equals 24. I'm going to divide both sides by 3, and b is 8. All right, next one. Draw that line down the middle to help you separate the left from the right. I look at the left side. I do have distributive property. So 9 times m is 9m. 9 times a negative 2 is negative 18. Equals, I look at the right. There's nothing to distribute or combine, so I'm just going to copy m plus 40. I look at both sides. This is completely simplified. Nothing to combine, no more distributive, completely simplified. Now I'm ready to move that smaller variable. I have a 9m and a 1m, so I'm going to subtract m from both sides. 9m minus m is 8m minus 18 equals 40. I'm going to add 18 to both sides, and I get 8m equals, what, 58, right? Okay, so I'm going to divide both sides by 8, and oh no, that doesn't go evenly. That's okay. Now I suggest leaving it as a fraction, 58 over 8. Maybe simplify that. 2 goes into 58, or does 4 go into that? 4 does not, but 2 does. It goes into it 29 times. 2 goes into 8 4 times, and 29/4 is a fine answer. You might see that as 7 1/4. This would be okay as 7.25 since it's terminating, but it's just as fine with me that you leave it as an improper fraction. Improper fraction is what you're going to see more and more as you head on up through your math classes. Okay, here are 2 more. Feel free at this point, if you want to follow the steps and try these on your own, to try them on your own, then turn the video back on and see if you got it right. Otherwise, I'm going to talk through both of these. This first one, I'm going to draw a line through my equal sign so I keep my left and my right side separate. I look at the left side, I see distributive property, so I'm going to copy the 5x. 2 times 11 is 22. 2 times negative 4x is negative 8x. I look at the right. There's no distributive. There's no combining like terms. I'm just going to copy 82 plus x. Then I look at the right again. The left. It is still not simplified. I can combine the 5x and the negative 8x. So I get negative 3x plus 22 equals 82 plus x. Once I get both sides completely simplified, then I'm ready to move a variable. My negative 3x is smaller than my positive 1x, so I'm going to add 3x to both sides. I end up with 22 equals 82 plus 4x. Notice how that made my variable positive, so I have one less negative to worry about. Now I have a two-step equation. I'm going to subtract 82 from both sides. I get negative 60 equals 4x. I'm going to divide both sides by 4, and x is negative 15. All right, one more. Line through the equal sign. I look at the left. I have distributive property. So I've got 14. Negative 3 times 5t is negative 15t. Negative 3 times negative 12 is positive 36 equals, here's that minus outside parentheses. We talked about that the other day. Remember, there's a 1 there. So we're going to distribute a negative 1. Negative 1 times 20 is negative 20t. And negative 1 times positive 1 is negative 1. Remember, we said when you have a negative outside parentheses, it changes the sign of everything in the parentheses. So we distributed. Now we need to combine. So I look over here. I have a 14 and a 36. What does that give me? 50 minus 15t equals, and I look over here and I have a 1 and a negative 1. Those simplify, right? They cancel, they become 0, and I'm left with negative 20t. Now, here's one of the exceptions I was talking to you about. I have a minus 15t on the left and a minus 20t on the right. This is smaller, but if I move it over here, I end up with nothing over here on the right side. I end up with a 0, which actually makes me have to do an extra step. So when all you've got is a variable on one side, move the other side, even if it's not smaller. So this is a minus 15t, so I'm going to add 15t to both sides. And I get 50 equals negative 20 plus 15t is negative 5t. Divide both sides by negative 5, and t is negative 10. There's multiple ways to get there and still get the right answer as long as the steps you use are correct. All right. If you have any questions, write them here, and we will go over these notes and practice in class.